Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Please join us today in the class of Srimad Bhagavatam, where we will be studying Srimad Bhagavatam 10th Canto, Chapter 52. Rukmani's message to Lord Krishna. Please join us for the chanting of Jai Radha Madhava prayers. Hare Krishna. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Yashodanandana Vrajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya
Narayanam Namaskritya
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Tato Jayam Udiryet
Tato Jayamudirye
Shavatam Swakatha Krishna
Shravtam Swakatha Krishna
Punya Shavana Kirtanaha
Punya Shravana Kirtana
Hridayantasto He Bhadrani
Hridayantastoy Bhadrani
Vidunoti Suhasatam
Vidunoti Sahrasatam
Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu
Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Nityam Bhagavad Sevaya
Bhagavate Uttam Shloke
Bhagavate Rutam Shloke
Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki
Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki.
Hare Krishna. So please join us today for the study of Srimad Bhagavatam. Today the study will be of Srimad Bhagavatam 10th Canto, chapter 52. Rukmini's message to Krishna. And in this chapter, Shukdev Goswami, when he is speaking to Parikshit Maharaj, who is fasting until death, he is describing the various mystical pastimes of Lord Shri Krishna. And how Lord Krishna, just by his one action, can solve so many purposes. And he can satisfy so many living entities appropriately. And sometimes just for the time being. Hare Krishna. So please join us for the recitation of the first few verses. Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th Canto, chapter 52, verse 1. Shri Shuka Uvacha
Shri Chukuvacha
Ittam so nagrahito anga
Ittam so nagrahito anga
Krishne Nikshvakunandanaha
Krishnane Kshavakunanandana
Tam parikramya sannamya
Tam parikramya sannamya
Nishchakrama guhamukhat.
Nishchakrama guhamukhat Shri Chukuvacha
Shri Shuka Uvacha
Ittam so anagrahito anga
Ittham so nagrahito anga
Krishne Kshvakunandana
Krishne Nikshvakunandanaha
Tam parikramya sanamya
Tam parikramya sannamya
Nishchakram guha mukhat
Nishchakrama guhamukhat. Shri Shuka Uvacha.
Shri Shukuvacha
Shri Shukdev Goswami said,
Shri Shukdev Goswami said
Itham,
Itam
in this manner,
in this manner
Saha,
Sa
he,
He
Anugrahitaha,
Anugrahita
shown mercy,
shown mercy
Anga,
Anga
my dear Parikshit Maharaj,
my dear Parikshit Maharaj
Krishnena, by
Krishnena
Lord Krishna,
by Lord Krishna
Ikshvaku Nandanaha,
Ikshvaku Nandana
Muchukunda, the beloved descendant of Ikshvaku,
Muchukunda the beloved descendant of Ikshvaku
Tam,
Tam
him, Parikramya,
Parikramya
circumambulating,
circumambulating
Sannamya,
Sannamya
bowing down,
Nishchakrama
Nishchakram, he went out, Guha, of the cave, Mukhat, from the mouth. Translation by the disciples of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Shukdev Goswami said, My dear king, raised by Lord Krishna, Muchukunda circumambulated him and bowed down to him. Then Muchukunda, the beloved descendant of Ikshvaku, exited through the mouth of the cave. There is no purpose, so we'll cover the very next verse. Next verse, verse 2. Seeing that the size of all the human beings, animals, trees, and plants was severely reduced, and thus realizing that the age of Kali was at hand, Muchukunda left for the north. Purport. There are several significant words in this verse. A standard Sanskrit dictionary gives the following English meanings for the word Shulaka: little, small, low, vile, poor, indigent, wicked, malicious, abandoned, hard, pained, distressed. These are the symptoms of the age of Kali. And all these qualities are said here to apply to men, animals, plants, and trees in this age. We who are enamored of ourselves and our environment can perhaps imagine the superior beauty and living conditions available to people in former ages. The last line of this text, Jagam Disham Uttaram, he went toward the north, can be understood as follows. By traveling north in India, one comes to the world's highest mountains, the Himalayan range. There, one can still find many beautiful peaks and valleys, where there are quiet hermitages suitable for austerity and meditation. Thus, in Vedic culture, going to the north indicates renouncing the comforts of ordinary society and going to the Himalayan mountains to practice serious austerities for spiritual advancement. Hare Krishna. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Deshitarine Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripa Tadaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So, this chapter starts just where we left off in the previous chapter. Muchukunda was blessed by Lord Shri Krishna. So, Shukdev Goswami is speaking Srimad Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj. And Parikshit Maharaj is hearing as how he is so merciful. He is an ocean of mercy. Yet at the same time, he is also showing us, in Srimad Bhagavatam, we are also hearing as how Shukdev Goswami is revealing that how devotees are so nicely surrendered to Lord Krishna, how they are constantly surrendered at his lotus feet. And this is being exemplified by King Muchukunda himself. When he was in Satyuga, one of the very powerful kings, and he was son of King Mandhata, who was the emperor of the world at that time, who was king of Yavanashva, who was son of the king Yavanashva. So, and their kingdom was Mathura. So at that time, Mathura was the capital of their kingdom. And here, Mandhata had three sons, Purukutsa, Amrish, and Muchukunda. And this Amrish is also very famous, but not the same as Amrish Maharaj we know, who was offended by Durvasa Muni. So he's a different Amrish. And here, Muchukunda, he gave up his family, his children. So this is like an extreme, sometimes we see, that somebody is so dedicated in devotional service and they are so much dedicated in serving the Vaishnavas, because he gave up everything just to serve the demigods. When they were fighting against the demons, the asuras, at that time, they sought his help. And they made him general. He was a great general of his army, and his kingdom was completely not disturbed, very peaceful. So they saw that this king, Muchukunda, is, he is a Suryavamshi, a descendant of, in Vivaswan's descendant, Ikshvaku, is Vivaswan's son's son, grandson. So Vivaswan's son is Vivasvata Manu, who's the Manu at the current age, at current times. And his son was Ikshvaku. And from Ikshvaku, again in the same lineage, Lord Ramchandra also appeared. And King Raghu also appeared. So Muchukunda appeared in that lineage. And he is a very powerful general, a very strong king. And seeing his skill as a great general, as a great warrior, and who is so expert in the art of war, demigods, they did not have a general at that time. So Kartikeya had not come into picture at that time. So what happened was they approached this king, King Muchukunda, and they said that please, could you lead our army, the army of the demigods, to fight against the demons, the asuras. And at that time, seeing that these demigods are devotees of Lord Shri Krishna, they are, devotees of Lord Vishnu, so he agreed just to serve the Vaishnavas. He gave up everything that he had just to lead them as a general. So lead the army of the demigods. And he led it so nicely that they came out victorious. And he had been fighting that for many days, months, and so forth on their behalf, this battle. And then Kartikeya came, and he was recognized as a great general. So they said that Kartikeya can lead, as general, and we are very happy with Muchukunda. So Kartikeya approached Muchukunda, and he said that you gave up your family, you gave up your undisturbed kingdom, you had such a valiant and joyful kingdom in front of you, you could have enjoyed your life, but just to serve the Vaishnavas, you gave up everything and you served the Vaishnavas. But now, we would like you to ask for a boon. Except for liberation, we can grant you anything that you want. So Muchukunda at that time was feeling so tired, his limbs were, really not able to do anything. So he's thinking, so this is a, heart of a devotee, so magnanimous. He's thinking, I'm so exhausted that even if I want to perform a service, I cannot perform. So what is it? He could not think of anything else but to rest. So he said, I should rest so nicely that when I get up, I'm fully energized to perform my next service. Again, engaging in devotional service is the only thought he has. And for that, he asks the boon to be able to sleep very nicely. And if somebody disturbs him, and wakes him up before time, then he should, be able to destroy them with his sight also. So the fire would come out from his eyes, and the person who wakes him up would just be killed. So he was at that extreme again. Yet at the same time, he is thinking that he has to rest to perform devotional service. So we have to, again, in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says that one has to be very regulated in their life. So Muchukunda is showing this by his example. And when he is sleeping, what happens? Lord Krishna is, running towards this cave where Muchukunda has gone and is sleeping. And who is following him? Kalyavan, the barbarian king, is following Lord Krishna. Yet at the same time, he is not able to catch Lord Krishna. And when Lord Krishna enters inside the cave, he spreads his cloth on King Muchukunda, who is lying there, and he goes further inside. Well, Kalyavan comes and he thinks that this is Lord Vasudeva. He doesn't want to fight, so finding an excuse, he is lying down, covering himself as if he is sleeping. So he kicks the person who is lying down, sleeping. And when he's feeling this hard kick, King Muchukunda, he gets up and he's awake. He's looking at everywhere. Who's this, who kicked him so hard? And he sees Kalyavan standing there. So in anger, having been awakened before the proper time that he wanted to fully rest, he is angry. And he looks at Kalyavan, and the rays of fire comes out from his eyes, burning him down. And then Parikshit Maharaj inquired, how is it that he could do this? So then all this is narrated by Shukdev Goswami as how he got this boon. And then after Kalyavan is dead, Lord Krishna comes out. So Kalyavan had performed so many sins. So Lord Krishna decided that he should not be killed by my hand, because if Lord Krishna kills him, then he will attain liberation, he will attain Sarupya Mukti, and he will go back home, back to Godhead. But that was not the desire, that was not the mood, that was not the wish of Lord Krishna at that time. So this is also showing us that even if somebody approaches Lord Krishna with pratikul, with not so desirable feelings, Lord may send one of his agents. So he used Muchukunda, a devotee of his, to kill Kalyavan. And so Kalyavan had to now go, the living entity that was acting in the body as Kalyavan, he went to hellish planets and suffered for the various sins he had performed. Now here, Muchukunda, when Lord Krishna comes out, takes his cloth, at that time, Muchukunda is amazed looking at Lord's four-arm Murti form. And he's seeing the effulgence of Lord, and he's seeing how he's, wearing yellow garments, beautiful form of Lord with the eyes just like lotus petals, with feet so soft as, lotus flowers as well, and his body just proportionately built. And he inquires from Lord Krishna. So there we learn the lesson that when someone, inquires from another person, it is important to give your own introduction in a humble manner. So devotees, we always smile, bow down, ask, I'm so and so, and inquire about other persons, what's their interest, what's their purpose. So he inquires from Lord Shri Krishna after giving his introduction, and Lord Krishna smiles back and reveals to him that he has unlimited names, unlimited pastimes, his appearance has been unlimited, his forms have been unlimited. Yet at the same time, Lord is revealing that in this particular pastime, I am appearing as son of Vasudeva. So my name is Vasudeva. So this is Lord Vasudeva is revealing himself to Muchukunda. And then he's revealing that actually you are my devotee and I want to give you the benediction. So I wanted to bless you. And that's the reason I have come to you. And Muchukunda is jubilant, hearing that this is none other than his worship of a Lord Vishnu. So he is bowing down. And then Muchukunda gives, he sings amazing prayers in glorification of Lord Krishna, where we hear many wonderful lessons as how, sometimes our life around family, when the focus becomes enjoying the senses, it becomes andhakupam. It's dark well covered by high grasses. And when animals are lured to eat the grass, they sometimes fall down in these wells, and then if they cannot come out, then they die. So that's one way he's explaining, how he's explaining what happens to the body at the time of death. What's the destination of a body? While the destination of soul has been explained by Lord Krishna again and again in Bhagavad Gita, based on the karmas, based on what we think at the last moment of our life. Also, antakale chamameva. So he's saying, one who remembers me at the last moment of their life comes back to me. However, one who meditates on other objects, mind takes them to those destinations. Here, Muchukunda is singing these glories, and then Lord Krishna blesses him after his prayers are over, and he's going down to Lord Krishna. He says, King Muchukunda, you had killed many animals, so you have incurred a lot of sins. So you should perform austerities. And in your next birth as a Brahmana, you will perform these great austerities and then you will come back to me. Now we also explain that it doesn't mean that he has to die, give up his body, and then he will be born as a Brahmana. Rather, he starts to go north. So this is where this chapter is describing that Muchukunda takes this message and he understands that Lord wants him to go to Badrika Ashram for spiritual advancement. And he starts to go towards north, and the destination he has is Gandha Madana mountain. Gandha is fragrance. Mad means like the whole environment is so imbued with the fragrance. So Madana and mountains. So this is in Himalayan range. And he is going over there. So he starts to travel towards north after circumambulating the Lord. And Lord, he departs one direction and Muchukunda is departing. But as soon as he comes out and he starts to walk towards north, what does he see? He's amazed to see that suddenly the first observation is everything is appearing miniature in their forms. The trees are very small. And he's seeing the animals are very small. And then he is seeing people, and as soon as people see Muchukunda, they are running in anxiety and fear. And it's described in other scriptures that his height was that of 100 palm trees. That tall he was. So in Satyuga, living entities, they were really tall and big. And so he was seeing. And then in the purport, as we heard, that the description of Kali age has been replicated in the form like how people are so small. And also in Srimad Bhagavatam, Sutta Goswami, early on when he's in the assembly of the great sages headed by Shaunaka Rishi, this has been revealed. Prayesha alpa ayusha sabhya kalavasmin yuge janaha manda sumanda matyo manda bhagya upraduta. So this is telling us the characteristic of people in Kali age. That when one is born in Kali age, what are the characteristics? Prayena alpayusha. Alpayusha is short lives. So men have short lives. Sabhya kalavasmin yuge jana. And this is an age of quarrel and hypocrisy. So there is always kala. Kala means quarrel going on. Manda, sumanda matyo. Manda means lazy and sumanda matyo is not very intelligent. Very less intelligence. Manda bhagya and unlucky. And upraduta and always disturbed. So these are the 6 characteristics of living entities born in Kali age. And Kali age happens to be only on Earth planet. Again, higher heavenly planets don't experience the 4 ages. They are constantly, above these effects of the 4 ages. So on this planet Earth, the living entities who are born are experiencing this Kali age, and born in this Kali age have these tendencies that they have short lives. So our life is maximum for about 100 years. And we are there's quarrelsome attitude, the constant debate and discussions and conflicts are going on in the world, especially with this COVID-19 lockdown. Everyone is pointing fingers to others to correct their behavior, not realizing that we have to also improve our behavior and be merciful not just to living entities but also to Mother Nature, because everyone is sharing it. And it has been said again and again that Earth has enough to meet everyone's need, but it doesn't have enough to meet even one person's greed. So we have to be collaborating in this time and creating a loving environment. And the best loving environment we create is by chanting the holy name of Lord Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Because when we chant the holy name, we realize what is our mood and what is our service to Lord Krishna. And Lord Krishna says, Surhidam Sarva Bhutanam. So he is the benefactor and the well-wisher of all living entities. And so are his devotees. And we are following in the footsteps of his wonderful devotees. So we have to be very loving to every living entity. And we have to be very, when we speak something, we have to be very palatable so that people feel the sweetness in their heart. And that should be the mood. Because when you spread happiness, it multiplies. And when we share distress, it divides. So those are some of the basic principles of this life. So here Muchukunda is going towards this mountain, the Himalayan ridges, and he performs great austerities as a Brahmana. So just by following the samskara, following the regulated principles, and the nature changes. Now sometimes people say, how could the nature be changed? And sometimes this is the caste system, the difference of 4 varnas versus caste system, this needs to be understood. So when Srila Prabhupada, he has 2 of his sannyasi disciples, they were in Navadvip Dham in Mayapur, and they were going from temple to temple, relishing Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes as how he performed such wonderful pastime here and so forth. So he went to one of the temples, and there they were, during the Aarti time afterwards, the Pujari came and he brought them prasad, Mahaprasad, and then he blessed them that in your next life may you be born as Brahman. And they were puzzled to hear this blessing. So they took the Mahaprasad and then they came back afterwards to Srila Prabhupada and they narrated this incident that had happened. And Srila Prabhupada smiled and they said, see, this is the intelligence. And then Srila Prabhupada told them a very nice story. The story was of an old woman in a village who had a dispute with her relatives who were trying to usurp her land. So she owned some, agricultural land, and they were trying to take it away from her. So at that time, it just so happened that a district magistrate was traveling, and he had come to her village. So her friends and well-wishers, they approached this old lady and said, "You should put your case in front of this magistrate, and then he will rule in your favor, so all this dispute will finish." So she thought it's a great idea, and she went to the magistrate, presented her case. Magistrate looked at her case very thoroughly, brought the other party, and made a ruling in her favor. Now she felt like she has to, bless this magistrate. So her blessing was, "May you become a constable." Because in her mind, constable was the highest position one could hold. A policeman with a danda in their hand, with a stick, and telling people what to do. And she always thought that this is the highest position one can have. So in that mood, she gave this. Now, a magistrate is a much higher position. Yet at the same time, her mind always thought that just being a constable is the highest position. So that was a blessing. And Srila Prabhupada said, just like that, this pujari thinks that when one is born as a Brahman, then they become a Brahman. So he doesn't have a proper understanding of the scriptures, of the instructions given by Lord himself. Chaturvarnam maya shishtam guna karma vibhagasha. So, here, the focus is that Lord Krishna is revealing to Arjuna that the 4 varnas, the 4 classes, have been created by him. And what are those 4 varnas? Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. And how are they defined? Guna karma vibhagasha, by one's nature and one's activities. So when one is one's nature is in the mode of goodness, which is also one of the material modes, they are not transcendental, then one is a Brahman. When one is in the mode of passion, one becomes a Kshatriya. His activities are that of Kshatriya. And we see as how Muchukunda was a Kshatriya, great general, but afterwards he went and performed austerities, and he continued to engage in various kinds of sacrifices, and thus he transitioned into the next phase, next varna, as Brahman. And Vaishya is one who is in a mixed mode of passion and ignorance, and Shudra is one who is in the mode of ignorance. Now the first 3 varnas, they become twice born when they follow samskaras and regulated rules and principles. Yet at the same time, devotees, a Vaishnava is said to be even higher, because a devotee is transcendental to the 3 modes of material nature, because a devotee is constantly engaging 24/7 in devotional service. And devotional service is transcendental to the 3 modes of material nature. So here the sannyasis have dedicated their lives, the 2 sannyasis, disciple of Srila Prabhupada. And so they are constantly engaging in devotional service, so they are transcendental to the 3 modes of material nature. Yet at the same time, they are, in the Varna perspective, if you look at the prescribed duties, they are still Brahmanas. And a Brahman Pujari is blessing them that may you become a Brahman. So they are in transcendental phase, and he is asking that may you come under the modes of influence of the modes of material nature in mode of goodness. And that is sometimes the thought as being explained by this nice story Srila Prabhupada, told these sannyasis, and they understood very nicely. Yet at the same time, Yasmano dvishite loko lokano dvishite chaya. So a devotee does not want to disturb others and doesn't want to be disturbed by others. So they did not go back to the temple to enlighten that pujari, because that could have started a new conflict. They understood that they don't have to get disturbed, yet at the same time they don't want to disturb others, and they realized that people come to their proper state, because just like Muchukunda was lying in a dark cave, sometimes living entity is just lying dormant, that consciousness, Krishna consciousness is dormant. Bhakti is dormant in this dark cave-like heart of ours. And Mother Nature is kicking us again and again through various miseries that's coming our way, just like Kalyavan kicked him. And one day we'll get such a strong kick that we'll be awakened and decide to just break away all the ties. So again, you don't have to give up your family and wife and children and all your belongings. Rather, we have to engage it, dovetail everything in Lord Krishna's service. That is the message that Lord Krishna gave to Arjun. And that's what Srila Prabhupada always propagated in his writings, that one has to dovetail everything in Lord Krishna's service. Sarvopadhe vinirmuktam tatparatvena nilmaram rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhaktiruchyate. Right? So, by giving up all varieties of upadhis, one has to dovetail and execute devotional service as Lord Krishna desires. And that is, bhakti. That is what it defines a proper mood. And anasaktasya vishyam yatharam upayunjata nirbandha krishna sambandhe yukta vairagam uchyate. Anasaktasya vishyam. So, without having any attachment to any of the subject matters, which is like in the material modes. Yatharam upayunjata nirbandha krishna sambandhe. So, putting everything in relationship with Lord Krishna. So, when we live in a family, we look at our wife and say, oh, she's a great Vaishnavi, so I should help her in her mission, in her spiritual journey. When we look at our children, what's the difference? The only difference is that they happen to have come little later, right? But if you look at it, before they were born, they were much older than we were, right? And one time we were babies, and maybe they were old or older than us. So it just happens that in time there is a difference. But these should be taken as mercy of Lord Krishna, that He has given such wonderful children to us who are great Vaishnavas, and we should encourage them to pick up their journey where they left off and continue to engage in devotional service. And how is devotional service performed? Sukham kartum avyayam. It is joyfully performed. So we as parents have a responsibility, we as partners have a responsibility to show everyone that this devotional service is performed so joyfully, so wonderfully and happily, in this mood where we are completely peaceful, taking shelter at the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. And every time we become anxious or bewildered, more the reason for us to take shelter of the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna and our spiritual master. By remembering their instructions, by remembering their mercy, we have to engage ourselves so that we become transcendental to this material nature, the three modes of material nature. And when we become transcendental, we become fearless. We don't become careless, rather we become carefree. And so miseries may fall, but we have this nice umbrella over us, where we experience the transcendental drops of ecstasy that's sprinkling under this umbrella, which represents Lord Krishna's lotus feet. And we are constantly engaging in chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So one doesn't have to give up, like Muchukunda gave up his family and other belongings. We can be where we are situated, but just keep Lord Krishna in the center instead of our senses in the center. So that's the difference between love and lust. Now Muchukunda, he goes to north and now he's doing this. While in the meantime, what has happened? Lord Krishna came back to Mathura, and what does he see? The whole army, the Yavana army, is still there. So he starts killing these soldiers. So here Shukdev Goswami said that there were 30 million of these soldiers who had surrounded Mathura. And Lord Balaram was inside the city to guard it, and Lord Krishna comes and starts killing, and he kills all the soldiers. The whole army is destroyed. And at that time Lord Balaram comes out, and Krishna and Balaram, with the help of various bullock carts and the men, the residents of Mathura, they are sending all this loot right now, all the treasure and everything that this army was carrying with them. So that is being sent back, through the gates of Mathura, inside Mathura. And at this time, Jarasangha appears with his 23 Akshohini armies. And it is very nicely described that Lord Krishna and Balaram, they were, collecting with the help of others all this great wealth, and they, looking at Jarasandha, they act as if they are afraid of Jarasandha. And they flee, they run.
with their lotus feet, they are running away. And Jarasandha is amazed. He is amazed. Why? Because previously when he brought 23 Akshayani armies, every time he was defeated by Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram. And he's looking at them, he's like, this is not a Kshatriya behavior. He's surprised that they are not following the rules and regulations as Kshatriya kings they were supposed to. And he's calling out to them. As a Kshatriya, he's ready to give them arms to fight with him. But they are not listening to him, they are running away. So Lord Krishna is even glorified as Ranchor. So when a Kshatriya runs from the battlefield, then he's called a coward. And Lord Krishna says to Arjuna that even though you are thinking that because you are of compassion that you are feeling towards your kingsmen and your relatives and friends, you may be, leaving this battlefield, but everyone will call you a coward. And being called a coward is worse than death for a Kshatriya. Yet Lord Krishna himself, prior to having spoken Bhagavad Gita, is showing that he's running away from the battlefield. And Jarasandha is laughing. He's astonished and he's laughing. Now it's also very interesting that every time he would bring 23 Akshayani armies, he would lead the 10 Akshayanis. Duryodhan would lead 5 Akshayanis. King of Vindhyadesh, he would lead 5 Akshayanis. And then King of Bengal would lead 3 Akshayanis. So that was the distribution. And every time, in 17 times previously, Lord Krishna and Balaram, they would destroy all his armies, and these kings, Duryodhan and the king of Vindhyadesh as well as the king of Bengal, they would run away. They would flee away from the... and Jarasandha would bring his chariot near Lord Balaram to fight with Lord Balaram, and Lord Balaram with his plow would just tie onto the yoke of that chariot and move it just like a fan is moved here and there, and everything will be broken apart, and Jarasandha would be on the ground, fallen from his chariot, and Lord Balaram would just tie him with ropes, and before killing, Lord Krishna would ask him to release Jarasandha. So this has been repeating 7 times. And the 18th time, he sees that Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram are running. So somebody could wonder, why is Lord Krishna running from the battlefield? He can destroy everyone. Why is he acting as if he is afraid? This is a great opportunity because Lord appeared as Lord Vasudeva to release the burden of the earth. But why is he not killing these 23 Akshayani armies? There are various reasons given. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada reveals in his purports, as well as Shukdev Goswami reveals, that Lord Krishna has other activities and other pastimes that he wants to engage in. What has happened? He has transferred all the residents of Mathura to Dwarka, which is a fort in the ocean. And no man or animal or beast can enter there without proper permission. And every house is like a palace, and all the residents are living in this palace. So this also shows the magnanimous nature of Lord Krishna, where he is ready to share everything that he has. He loves us so much. He is a father who is ready to give us everything that he has. All he wants is our love. Our love and devotion. That is the only thing. Lord Krishna says, Patram pushpam phalam toyam yo me bhaktya prayachati. Tadaham bhakti upritam ashnami prayatatmana. If one offers me with love, patra, a leaf, pushpa, a flower, phal, a fruit, and toyam, little water, I would accept it if it is offered with devotion. So the word devotion and love has been expressed here twice, bhaktya upritam. So all Lord wants is simple things, but most important he wants is our love. He wants us to love him, and we are his most beloved children. So as our Father, he is seeking that love, he is looking at us to have this loving exchange, which will actually give us more happiness than we can ever imagine. So in this particular case, Lord Krishna, Lord Vasudeva, he is running away, and that is amazing. That why is he running away with Balaram? Because he wants to carry out his next set of pastimes, and he's leaving all that treasure that he collected from the army of Kalyavan, leaving on the spot. And Jarasandha, he's rebuking Lord Krishna. So a king who leaves the battlefield is rebuked, but Lord Krishna, when he's Ranchor, he's glorified. So in Gujarat and Rajasthan, there are many temples in India where Lord is worshipped and as Ranchor, one who flee from the battlefield. And in other Puranas, in Vishnu Purana, Padma Purana, Garg Samhita, there are many nice descriptions given. Actually, one of the main reasons Lord Krishna flees is, as we also sing in his prayers, Namo Brahmanaya Devaya Go Brahmanaya Hitaya Cha. So again, Lord Krishna, he is a benefactor of the Brahmanas as well as cows. So he loves the Brahmanas and the cows. Why? Because Brahmanas are clean, and cleanliness is next to godliness. And so, what had happened was, when Jarasandha had collected on the 18th time, he had collected the 23 Akshani armies, and he had invited various kings to lead his various Akshani armies. And Duryodhan, king of Vindhya Hills, again came, and king of Bengal came, and they were, leading this army. Just before starting from his place, from Magad, he had called all these Brahmanas who had performed, the astrologers and the Brahmanas, the Brahmana astrologers, and they had made a prediction that this time he would win. And at that time he called them before leaving, and he said that if I don't win this time, this is my 18th attempt, and if I don't win this time, I will come and kill all of you. So now Lord Krishna, realizing that if he kills these 23 Akshani armies and defeats Jarasandha, he is going to go back and kill all those Brahman astrologers and all the priests in his kingdom. So realizing that that would be a great loss, he decides to flee. So he is solving with his one act many purposes. And now he and Balram, Lord Balram, he sees Lord Vasudeva running, so Lord Sankarshan runs. Balram is also known as Lord Sankarshan. So in this pastime, Lord Sankarshan, he runs along with Krishna, and they are both running as brothers, and they are running barefoot like for hundreds of yojanas, for many, many miles. And they come to this great mountain, Pravarsan. So this mountain is so high that its peak is constantly covered by clouds. And there is constant torrential rain is happening there. So they start climbing this mountain. And Jarasandha is laughing, and he remembers what he said to the Brahmanas, but he is feeling that he has not defeated, so those Brahmanas are going to die now. Yet at the same time he starts chasing Lord Krishna and Lord Balram. And he sees that they are climbing this mountain, so he sends his army along, and they start to climb and then try to find Lord Krishna and Lord Balram. And Lord Krishna and Lord Balram are climbing towards the peak, and after a lot of searching, the soldiers are not able to find where Lord Krishna and Lord Balram are. So he decides that okay, he's going to set the whole mountain on fire. So he has his army spread oil all around the mountain, on the leaves, on the trees and so forth, and set the whole mountain on fire. And at that time, Lord Krishna and Lord Balram, they jump from the peak of the mountain to on the ground, so that none of the armies are able to see them. No one is able to observe that they have jumped. And they have jumped, this peak is 11 yojanas long jump, a high jump, it's there. So they have taken, which is 88 miles. This is amazing jump. Now sometimes people say, how could somebody could jump so, such a vast distance? Well, of course, we're talking of Lord Krishna. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So if he can pass an elephant through the eye of a needle, why can't he jump 88 miles long, jump? So again, and then he goes to Dwarka. Now the next event that happens in Dwarka is King Revat comes with his daughter Revati. And he had been given this instruction we covered in Canto 9 lectures, where we talked about when we were studying Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 9, that King Revat had got to Lord Brahma. And at that time, Lord Brahma revealed, he had come to invite Lord Brahma in his daughter's marriage, and also wanted to know who is the bridegroom. And Lord Brahma revealed that while he was waiting for Lord Brahma, many of his generations have passed through. So he should immediately go to Dwarka, where Lord Balram is there, and he would be able to marry his daughter, give his daughter in charity to Lord Balram. So this is Kanya Dan, right? So this is a charity, and it is a great charity to marry your daughter, give your daughter in charity to a suitable groom. And who could be more suitable than Lord Balaram? So King Revat brings Revati, his daughter, and Princess Revati is married to Lord Balaram with a nice pomp and show. And there is great jubilation. So festivities are constant occurrence in transcendental abode. And this Dwarka, even though it is Bhauma Dwarka, all these transcendental ecstasies are everywhere. Everyone is rejoicing completely, fearlessly. They are living a wonderful life. The Lord Krishna has made sure that with the help of Vishwakarma and Yogamaya, he has such an amazing fort. And we talked about it was the peak of technology that they used. Even today, we can't even imagine that technology. And so here, Lord Krishna, he is living with Lord Balaram. Lord Balaram is the protector of Mathura, and he is also the protector of Dwarka. And it just so happens that a Brahman comes. Now, many wonderful pastimes are not covered in Srimad Bhagavatam because Shukdev Goswami is covering it quickly, right, for Parikshit Maharaj. So what had happened previously was, which is given in other scriptures like Padma Purana and Garg Samhita and others, where Devashi Narad, he had come and given the description of Vaidehi, Princess Rukmini. So he has described how beautiful and how nice-natured she is, and she is actually said to be an expansion of Lakshmi, an expansion of Radharani in the purport by Srila Prabhupada. And when we look at Acharya's description, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Jiva Goswami, we come to understand that actually Radharani expanded into all of her Sakhis. So one of her expansion is Chandravali, who is very submissive in nature in Vrindavan. And whatever Krishna wants, she does that. So it just so happens that Chandravali's expansion happens to be Rukmani. So she is very submissive, very sweet-natured, and wonderful natured, and with all auspicious signs she has. So Devashi Narad glorifies her beauty and her nature to Lord Krishna. And Lord Krishna at that time decides that he wants to marry her, but he has not expressed anything. Now Devashi Narad, understanding the wish of Lord Krishna, he goes to Videha. So again, King Bhishmaka is the king of Videha, and Kondina is another name for that place, that kingdom. And there, Bhishmaka has 5 sons, and the eldest one is Rukmi. And the young daughter of Bhishmaka, King Bhishmaka, is Rukmini Devi. So he, in the assembly of King Bhishmaka, he glorifies Lord Krishna's name, form, activities and pastimes. And when she hears that he is the most beautiful personality, he's magnanimous, and how he's constantly, with his loving smile, he's constantly looking to spread happiness and bliss everywhere, she falls in love with Lord Krishna. And she accepts that Lord Krishna will be her husband. And hearing this narration from Devashi Narad, sage Narad, King Bhishmaka, he decides that he will marry his daughter to Lord Krishna. But when he puts this proposal, at that time Rukmi, he opposes that because he did not like Lord Krishna. He thought that Lord Krishna is a Gwala, a cowherd boy who is suddenly acting like a Kshatriya. So, and he is a good friend of King of Chedi, right? Shishupal. So remember, this is again, because the arrangement of time, we are seeing Ramayana being, repeated here. Who is Lord Krishna? Lord Ramchandra. Who is Shishupal? Ravan in his previous birth. And who is Rukmini? Mother Sita. And Ravan wants to enjoy Mother Sita, while Sita really belongs to Lord Ram. So this is, Rukmini is acting like Shurpanakha, inciting this idea that Ravan should be able to have Mother Sita. So Rukmini, she sends a trusting Brahmana to Lord Krishna with a letter, with a message. So that is Rukmini's message to Krishna, Lord Krishna. So that is the title of this chapter, and this is where it's coming down to, where she sends this Brahmana, and it is revealed by the Acharyas that this Brahmana is an expansion of sage Vishwamitra. So he goes to the gates of Dwarka, and there the gatekeepers of Dwarka, they bring him to Lord Krishna. And he reveals that he has a message from Princess Rukmini, the daughter of King Bhishmaka. So Lord Krishna says, why don't you read it? So he has the messenger read the message that he has been given. So this is the first love letter being sent, where Rukmini is revealing her mind as how she has accepted Lord Krishna as her husband. She has fallen in love with him, and she is saying that just by hearing your glories, that I have not even seen you, yet at the same time, just by hearing your glories, I have decided, I have fallen in love with you and I have accepted you as my husband. So you should not let jackals, what belongs to a lion, lion's share should not be enjoyed by jackals. So she is calling Shishupal as a jackal, fox, right? Those kind of animals. While you are lion, so she is saying your share should not be enjoyed by lower beings. And Lord Krishna really likes this, and he is smiling as the messenger is narrating. And then she is revealing that if you were feeling that you would come during the time I'm getting married to Shishupal, and how you will enter the palace and how will you enter the city, and there will be loss on both sides, my family relatives, your family relatives, because there will be a fight, there will be a big war or battle. So she even gives him an arrangement as how, before the marriage, girl is, she goes to a temple, Goddess Durga temple, where she goes for a puja, right, for worshipping of Goddess Durga. And there, after receiving the blessings, she comes back. This happens before marriage. And so while I'm going to the temple or while I'm coming back, you have an opportunity to kidnap me. So she is even giving the plan of how to abduct her without hurting anyone. And Lord Krishna smiles. And so Lord Krishna, even before that, when this Brahman has come, he's not just saying, what's your purpose and where have you come? Lord Krishna shows by his nature how to welcome a atithi, how to welcome a guest. Seeing that a Brahman has come, he washes this Brahman's feet. He massages his feet, makes him, nice rest and nice palatable food and all that. And when he is well rested, then Lord Krishna is hearing from this Brahman. And so Lord Krishna has decided to take on this journey to kidnap Rukmini Devi. So this is where this chapter ends. And here we are going to see how Lord is so nicely going to carry out this wonderful pastime, yet at the same time this is where Jarasandha previously thought that Krishna and Balaram are dead. He has no news. And he is going to be bewildered seeing him when he sees Lord Krishna in near the temple outside at the outskirts of the city of Kaundani, Videha city. So this is where we will pick up the next chapter, and this chapter finishes. Yet at the same time, many wonderful pastimes are given where Lord Krishna is showing his mysterious nature. Just by carrying out one activity, he is meeting so many other desires of his devotees and is protecting them so nicely. So we also talked about the 6 limbs of Sharanagati, 6 limbs of surrender last time, where we also call it a kul mantra, right? Anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya vivarjanam rakshishyati iti vishwaso gopatitve varnam tatha apanikshep kaparne sadvita sharanagati. So anukulyasya sankalpa, accepting everything that is favorable to devotional service. Pratikulyasya vivarjanam, rejecting everything that is not favorable to devotional service. Rakshishyati iti vishwaso, Vishwas, having this faith that Lord Krishna will provide all protection. Gopatre Varnam Tatha, and accepting the protection of Lord Krishna. Atma Nikshepa Karpani. So again, Atma Nikshepa means surrendering everything, our very self in the service of Lord Krishna. Karpani is being humble, being meek. Yet at the same time, not that we become the floor mat, but we are meek, we are humble, we are tolerant, and this how to be tolerant is instructed by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. Tranadapi shuni chena tarorapi sahishnuna amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. Tranadapi shuni chena, being more tolerant than, means more humble than the grass on the street, more tolerant than the tree. Tarorapi sahishnuna, and more tolerant than the tree. amanina mandena, not accept, desiring to have any respect from others, but giving all respect to others. Kirtaniya sadahari. We can constantly sing the glories of Lord Krishna. Kirtan is also related to Kirti. Kirti means glorification. So one can continue to glorify Lord Krishna. So here we saw how Lord Krishna is performing this amazing pastimes, amazing leelas, where just by he's setting example as how benevolent and how well-wishing he is of the Brahmanas. And Jarasingh is thinking that one will always win if he is supported by Brahmanas. Because Lord Krishna, because of those astrologers saying that I will win this time, he ran away from the battlefield. He's feeling that, these Brahmanas are so wonderful. Now, of course, that when he went back home, he did all types of charitable functions, and he gave huge amount of charity to all the Brahmanas and astrologers, and they were feeling bliss for being protected by Lord himself, shown by his example, by taking blame. So Lord Krishna is ready to take blame, all kind of blames, just for the pleasure of his devotees. So sometimes people who in ignorance could be thinking that Lord Krishna, he is not a proper Kshatriya. Well, in reality, Lord is transcendental to the three modes of material nature. So he is the perfect Kshatriya, perfect Vaishya, perfect Brahmana. So he is perfect in all. Yet he is not in the modes of material nature because he is transcendental. So he can take any position. As how we hear as Parshuram, being a Shaktavish avatar of Lord Krishna and an empowered incarnation of Lord Krishna, was able to behave as a Kshatriya while he was, as a Brahmana. He was born as a Brahmana, he got education as a Brahmana. And later on we also see as Vishwamitra, who is sage Kaushik. So that's his actual name. Vishwamitra is the title he gets. A friend of the universe. Such an amazing title. Who was actually King Kaushik. But by being, a devotee of the Lord, he was able to become even a Brahma Rishi. So those are the glories of the devotees of Lord Krishna. And one can constantly do chanting of the holy name, Kirtaniya Sadahari. So let's chant the holy name of the Lord together. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And continue to meditate on the wonderful, amazing pastimes of Lord Shri Krishna. So please join us for Nasimha Devati at this time.
भागवतम की, शिला प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। हरे कृष्णा